Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I want to speak to you today about something that is shaking the very foundation of our lives. Many of us are searching for a way out of the worry, out of the fear, out of the pressure that seems to crush us with each passing day. You're asking, is there a way through this storm? Is there a way out of this valley? And I'm here to tell you, yes, there is. But it's not what you think. The world tells you to run in every direction, to keep your options open, to stay flexible. But I'm telling you now, the only way out is to lock in. Lock in to your purpose, lock in to your calling, lock in to the one who holds tomorrow in his hands. Because locking in is the only way out. You see, commitment is not a prison. It's the doorway to freedom. When you lock in, you are not chaining yourself down. You are breaking free from every chain that holds you back. You are cutting away the distractions. You are saying no to the noise and yes to the purpose God has planted deep inside of you. Some of you have been wandering for years. You've tried this, you've tried that, and still you are tired, still you are empty. Why? Because you haven't locked in. Because the power doesn't come from dabbling in a little bit of everything. The power comes when you say, this is where I stand, this is who I am, this is what I am called to do. That's when the fire comes. That's when the breakthrough happens. And let me tell you, discipline builds deliverance. You can't drift your way into your destiny. You have to lock in. Focus. Put away childish things. Get serious about the life you were born to live. I'm not talking about a half-hearted effort. I'm talking about a full surrender. Locking in with everything you've got. Some of you are holding on to fear of failing, fear of losing, fear of what others might think. But I'm here to tell you today, when you lock in, fear loses its grip. When you lock in, you are not alone. Strength will rise within you. Courage will carry you because your focus is not on the fear, but on the faithfulness of the one who called you. Faith demands full focus. The battle isn't out there. It's in here, in your mind, in your heart. Will you lock in or will you drift? Will you plant your feet or will you be tossed by every wind? Make the choice today to lock in because there is power in focus. There is power in commitment, and that power will lift you out of every valley, every storm. The only way out of the wilderness is to lock your eyes on the promised land and never look back. The only way out of doubt is to lock into belief. The only way out of fear is to lock into faith. Lock in. And you will find the way out. Some of you are ready right now. You feel it in your spirit. It's time. Time to stop playing games. Time to stop running. Time to lock in. Your future is calling. Your purpose is waiting. Your freedom is right on the other side of your commitment. Commitment is the gateway to freedom. At first, that may sound like a contradiction. In a world where freedom is often defined as the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want, the idea that locking yourself into something could lead to liberation seems backwards. But look deeper and you will find an undeniable truth. Without commitment, there is no real freedom. Without devotion to a purpose greater than yourself, you will always be at the mercy of something, whether it's fear, distraction, doubt, or the endless pull of choices that leave you paralyzed and empty. Commitment is not the end of freedom. It is where true freedom begins. Imagine a person standing in a vast field with paths stretching out in every direction. Each road offers a promise. This one might lead to success. That one might bring love. Another might offer peace. And there the person stands, unsure which way to go, terrified of choosing the wrong one. They hesitate. They second guess. They step a little down one path, then run back and try another. But they never go far enough down any of them to discover where they lead, and so they stay trapped. Not by the road ahead of them, but by their own inability to commit. This is how so many people live their lives, pulled in every direction, afraid to lock in, afraid to stay the course, and in that hesitation, they lose the very thing they seek: freedom. Freedom is not about having infinite choices. Freedom is about having clarity. It's about knowing who you are, where you are going, and why you are going there. And that kind of clarity only comes through commitment. When you commit to something greater than yourself, whether it's a calling, a purpose, a mission, or a relationship, you cut through the fog of uncertainty. You shut out the noise of the world that keeps telling you to chase everything at once. You stop wandering, you stop running, and for the first time, you start living with focus and intention. That is freedom. Think about the greatest musicians, the most skilled athletes, the most inspiring leaders. None of them became great by dabbling. They locked in. They chose one path and they walked it every day. They committed their hearts, their time, their energy, and their lives. And in that commitment, they found freedom. Their freedom to create, to inspire, to achieve, and to make an impact. Their commitment gave them the power to rise above the average and the ordinary. It set them free from the distractions that ensnare so many. It focused their gifts and amplified their impact. You see, when you are not committed, you are at the mercy of whatever grabs your attention next. You are a prisoner to every whim, every distraction, and every passing opportunity. But when you commit, you take back control. You draw a line in the sand and say, "This is who I am. This is what I'm about." And in that moment, you become free to become everything you were created to be. There is a weight that lifts when you commit. All the anxiety that comes from trying to keep your options open begins to fade. You don't have to waste your time second-guessing. You don't have to chase every trend, please every person, or jump on every opportunity. You are locked in. And because you are locked in, you can move forward. Your life takes on a new kind of power. Decisions become clearer, priorities snap into place. You start to build momentum, and momentum leads to transformation. People often confuse freedom with comfort. They think that freedom means being free from responsibility, free from sacrifice, free from hard choices. But true freedom often requires the opposite. It demands that you take responsibility for your life, that you sacrifice the lesser for the greater, that you make the hard choice to stay the course, even when it's difficult, even when it costs you something. Commitment demands discipline, and discipline is not a chain, it is a key. It unlocks a life that is purposeful, meaningful, and free. When you commit to something greater than yourself, you begin to transcend yourself. You live for more than your own desires or fears. You rise above the pull of selfishness and step into the power of service, of purpose, of legacy. That kind of life has weight, that kind of life has meaning, and that is where freedom lives. Not in endless options, but in a life that is locked into a cause, a calling, a conviction that makes every day count. This is why commitment is the gateway to freedom. It forces you to let go of what doesn't matter, so you can hold on to what does. It calls you out of comfort and into courage. It draws you away from distractions and into destiny. It asks you to give your best, and in return, it gives you the life you were always meant to live. You can search the world over for freedom, but you will never find it until you learn to commit. Not halfway, not when it's easy, but wholly. Lock in, and you will discover that what you thought was a limitation is actually your liberation. What you thought was the end of your freedom is the beginning of a life that is fully alive, fully focused, and truly free. Discipline builds deliverance. It is one of the great paradoxes of life that the very thing many people resist, discipline, is the very thing that sets them free. A focused, disciplined life is not a life of restriction. It is a life of power, purpose, and deliverance. It delivers you from the chains of distraction that keep you from moving forward. It delivers you from the despair that settles in when you feel stuck, scattered, and directionless. It delivers you from the slow, silent defeat that creeps in when you give up on the life you are meant to live. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is the bridge between where you are and where you are called to be. There is a deep, quiet power in discipline. It is not loud or flashy. It does not draw attention to itself. But over time, it builds something unshakable. A disciplined person rises above circumstances because they are not ruled by how they feel in the moment. They are not swayed by every wind that blows through their life. They have set their focus on a goal, a purpose, a calling, and they have built a life that moves steadily toward it, one choice at a time. They may not always feel motivated, they may not always feel inspired, but discipline keeps them moving forward when motivation fades and feelings shift like sand in the wind. In a world full of noise and endless distractions, discipline becomes a shelter. It clears a path through the clutter and chaos. Every day, people are bombarded with choices, temptations, and distractions that pull them away from what truly matters. Without discipline, it is easy to drift, to lose focus, to waste time and energy chasing things that lead nowhere. But discipline brings clarity. It forces you to make hard decisions about what deserves your attention and what doesn't. It trains you to say no to what is easy so you can say yes to what is worth it. That kind of focus delivers you from the constant pull of distraction and puts you back in control of your time, your energy, and your future. Discipline also delivers you from despair. There is a kind of hopelessness that takes root in people's lives when they feel powerless to change. when they look at the distance between where they are and where they want to be and feel overwhelmed. But discipline gives you back your power. It reminds you that you are not a victim of circumstance. You are not at the mercy of luck or chance. You have a say in how your story unfolds. Every disciplined choice you make is a step forward. Every day you stay committed to the process, even when you can't see the results, you are building something that will last. And over time, those small, steady steps deliver you from despair and bring you into a life filled with purpose and hope. There is no shortcut to the life you want, no magic formula, no instant success. The bridge between where you are and where you are called to be is discipline. It is showing up every day, doing the work, keeping your commitments, and refusing to quit when it gets hard. Discipline is what turns potential into power. It is what separates those who dream from those who do. Plenty of people have talent, ideas, and good intention, but without discipline, they drift. They talk about what they want, but never put in the work to make it real. Discipline is what makes the difference. It takes what is possible and turns it into what is actual. Discipline builds habits, and habits shape destiny. You don't rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your habits. A disciplined life is built on consistent, daily choices that align with your values and your vision. Over time, those choices compound. They create momentum. They build confidence. They strengthen your character. And they deliver you into the life you were made for. Discipline also delivers you from defeat. Life will test you. It will knock you down. It will bring resistance, setbacks, and moments of deep discouragement. But discipline gives you the resilience to get back up, to keep moving, to stay faithful to the process even when you feel like giving up. A disciplined person may fall, but they do not stay down. They have trained themselves to get back up and to keep going. They have learned that victory is not found in one big moment, but in 1,000 small ones, in the choices no one sees, in the effort that seems unnoticed. But over time, discipline writes a story of quiet, steady triumph. It delivers you from the slow defeat of compromise and inconsistency and carries you to the other side of your struggle. Discipline is not about perfection, it is about persistence. It is about showing up on the days when it's hard, when you don't feel like it, when no one is watching. It is about making the hard choice over and over again until it becomes who you are. And in that process, discipline changes you. It transforms weakness into strength, fear into courage, and doubt into faith. It delivers you from the person you used to be and shapes you into the person you were always meant to become. There is no other way. If you want to be delivered from distraction, despair, and defeat, you must embrace discipline. It will not be easy. It will not always be comfortable, but it will be worth it. Discipline is the bridge between the life you have and the life you long for. It is the path to deliverance, the key to freedom, and the foundation of a life that makes an impact and leaves a legacy. It builds something no one can take away from you. A life of integrity, purpose, and unstoppable strength. Discipline builds deliverance, and deliverance leads you to your destiny. Surrender leads to strength. It's not something we're often taught to believe. The world tells us that strength is found in control, in holding on tightly, in never showing weakness or yielding an inch. But true strength, the kind that endures storms and carries you through battles, is often found in the very opposite of what we expect. It comes when we lay down the weight we were never meant to carry. It comes when we surrender, not in defeat, but in trust, not in giving up, but in giving over. When you lock into a mission or a calling, surrendering your doubts and fears, you tap into a strength that was always inside you, waiting to be awakened. There are moments in life when we come to the end of ourselves. We run out of ideas, out of options, out of energy. We try to push through on our own strength, relying on willpower and determination, but still we hit walls we cannot break through. And in those moments, something begins to shift. We realize that what we have isn't enough, not because we are weak, but because we were never meant to do it alone. That's where surrender begins. It's not waving a white flag in defeat, it's opening our hands to something greater. It's choosing to release control so we can receive strength beyond our own. When you are driven by fear, you grip tightly to everything. You hold your doubts close, you carry your insecurities like armor, and you spend your days fighting battles in your mind. But fear is a heavy burden, and the longer you carry it, the weaker you become. Surrender is the decision to lay it down, to stop fighting shadows and start focusing on the light ahead of you. When you surrender your doubts, you create space for faith to rise. When you surrender your fears, you make room for courage to grow. And in that release, strength rushes in. Not a fragile strength that comes and goes, but a deep, unshakable strength that carries you forward. Surrender is not passivity, it is power. It's an active choice to trust in something greater than yourself. It's choosing to lock into a purpose so fully that you no longer have room for distraction or hesitation. When you give your life over to a mission, when you lock in and refuse to waver, you discover a focus and resilience you never thought possible. The doubts that once slowed you down lose their hold. The fears that once kept you stuck no longer have the final word. Surrender releases you from the endless inner struggle so you can move forward with clarity and conviction. Many people think that holding on tightly makes them strong. They try to control every outcome, to predict every twist and turn of life. But life isn't something we can control. It's something we are called to live fully and faithfully. And control often turns into chains. It keeps you small, it keeps you stuck. But surrender breaks those chains. It opens you up to possibilities you couldn't see when you were clinging so tightly to your own way. It allows you to be led by purpose instead of driven by fear. There's a strength that rises when you surrender because you are no longer divided. You are no longer fighting yourself, second-guessing your choices, or holding back out of fear of failure. You are locked in, fully committed. And that kind of commitment generates power. It gathers your energy and focuses it like a laser beam on the task in front of you. It sharpens your vision, it steadies your hands, it strengthens your heart. You become unmovable, not because you're holding everything together yourself, but because you are surrendered to a calling that is bigger than your fears. Surrender also builds strength through humility. When you admit that you don't have all the answers, when you let go of pride and perfection, you open yourself up to learn, to grow, to be shaped into something stronger. Humility is not weakness, it's the courage to be teachable, and teachability leads to transformation. You become stronger because you are no longer limited by your own understanding. You begin to draw strength from places you never expected, from faith, from community, from the lessons found in struggle and failure. When you surrender, you also find rest. And rest is where renewal happens. So many people are exhausted, not because they are doing too much, but because they are carrying things they were never meant to carry. Fear, doubt, control. It all drains your energy and steals your strength. But when you surrender, you find a peace that restores you. You find a stillness that heals you, and in that renewal, your strength multiplies. You are able to stand taller, walk farther, and fight harder because you are no longer drained by the weight of unnecessary burdens. Surrender leads to strength because it aligns you with your true purpose. It frees you from distraction and division. It focuses your heart, your mind, and your actions on what matters most. And in that alignment, you become unstoppable. Not because you are relying on your own strength, but because you are drawing from a deeper well. You are connected to a purpose that fuels you, guides you, and strengthens you beyond what you ever thought was possible. There is a quiet power in surrender. It's not the power of force, but the power of flow. It's a strength that moves with purpose, that endures through hardship, and that stands firm in the face of fear. When you lock into your calling and surrender your doubts and fears, you will find a strength that surprises you, a strength that carries you through the hardest days, a strength that enables you to lead, to inspire, to overcome. It was always there, waiting, but it's only through surrender that you finally make space to receive it. Faith requires full focus. It isn't something you can approach half-heartedly, and it doesn't thrive in divided minds or distracted hearts. Faith is an all-in commitment. It demands that you lock in your mind, your heart, and your soul, without wavering, without hesitation. Because you can't waver in faith and still expect to see miracles unfold. You can't be torn between doubt and belief, between fear and trust, and still walk confidently into the future you were created for. Faith is not just a feeling. It is a choice. A decision to fix your focus on what is unseen, to trust in what has been promised, and to keep walking even when the path is unclear. In life, there are plenty of opportunities to lose focus. There are distractions around every corner, voices that stir up doubt, circumstances that test your resolve, moments when the ground beneath your feet feels unsteady. But this is exactly why faith requires such intense focus. It isn't that you won't face trials. It's that when you do, you need to have already made up your mind about where you stand. Faith doesn't waver based on conditions. It holds fast no matter the storm because it is rooted in something deeper than emotion and stronger than circumstance. Faith is not about pretending things are perfect. It's about locking your gaze on the truth that even in uncertainty, there is a way forward. The mind is often the first battlefield when it comes to faith. Doubt creeps in through our thoughts, whispering questions like, what if it doesn't work? Or what if I'm not enough? If your mind is divided, it's nearly impossible to move forward in faith. Full focus means taking those thoughts captive and refusing to let them take root. It means choosing to believe in the promise even when your thoughts want to run in the opposite direction. Faith-focused thinking isn't blind optimism. It's a disciplined decision to dwell on what is true, what is good, and what is possible, rather than on what could go wrong. The heart must also be fully engaged in faith. A divided heart can't hold the weight of faith. If part of your heart is holding on to fear, to past failures, to comfort zones, then you will find yourself pulled in two directions, wanting to move forward but unable to let go of what's behind you. Faith calls for a heart that is fully surrendered, fully engaged, and fully committed. It calls for a heart that trusts, even when it doesn't understand, that believes, even when it has yet seen the outcome. A heart locked into faith has made peace with not having all the answers. It has decided that trust outweighs certainty and that obedience outweighs comfort. And then there's the soul, that deep inner place where conviction is born and where endurance is cultivated. Faith that involves the soul isn't just about believing for a moment. It's about standing firm for the long haul. There's a steadiness that comes when your soul is locked into faith. It's the kind of steadiness that doesn't get shaken by temporary setbacks or unexpected detours. It's a focus that comes from knowing who you are and whose you are, from knowing that your life is part of something bigger than what you can see. When your soul is locked in, you find the endurance to keep believing, to keep hoping, and to keep pressing forward, even when the waiting feels long and the answers seem distant. Faith that is focused is faith that takes action. It doesn't sit still, waiting passively for things to happen. It steps out, even when the next step isn't fully clear. It speaks life when everything seems silent. It moves forward when standing still feels safer. Focused faith isn't reckless, it's resolute. It counts the cost and then it commits anyway. It understands that miracles often meet us on the move, not while we're standing still with folded arms and hesitant hearts. When you lock in your faith, when your mind is clear, your heart is committed, and your soul is steadfast, you begin to see things differently. Challenges become opportunities for God to show His power. Obstacles become invitations for growth. Delays become times of preparation rather than dead ends. Focused faith changes your perspective because it's not looking at the problem, it's fixed on the promise. It's not waiting for circumstances to change before it believes. It believes, and in doing so, it creates space for circumstances to shift. But wavering faith, the kind that looks back and forth, weighing the odds and waiting for guarantees, rarely experiences the fullness of what's possible. Wavering faith is often stuck in analysis, paralyzed by fear, and tangled in doubt. It looks for signs before it steps out, but true faith often steps out and trusts that the signs will follow. Focused faith doesn't demand certainty, it acts on conviction. It understands that the clearest vision often comes after you've begun walking in obedience. Faith requires full focus because miracles require full surrender. You can't be halfway in and expect to experience the fullness of breakthrough. You can't cling to doubt and expect to walk in confidence. Faith requires everything you've got: your thoughts, your emotions, your will, your heart. It's an all-encompassing focus that locks in on what is true and refuses to let go. And the beauty of focused faith is that it multiplies strength. The more you focus, the stronger your faith becomes. The more you practice that focus, the easier it becomes to tune out distractions and stay the course. Faith feeds on focus. It grows in clarity and deepens in conviction when you refuse to let your attention be scattered. Faith becomes your lens, your compass, your anchor. Faith requires full focus because the life you are called to live is too important for half-hearted belief. The path ahead may be uncertain, but your faith doesn't have to be. Lock in, fix your focus, hold fast to the vision, and believe, not with part of you, but with all of you, that the breakthrough is coming, that the miracle is possible, and that the promise still stands. The way out is through commitment. If you want to escape confusion, pain, and fear, you have to lock in. You have to make a deep, unwavering commitment to a purpose, to a path, to a higher calling that pulls you out of the place where you are stuck. The only way out isn't by running from the struggle or avoiding the discomfort. It's by going through it with a heart fully committed and a mind made up. Commitment is the key that unlocks the door to freedom. It is the steady hand on the wheel when everything around you feels like chaos. It is the anchor that keeps you grounded when the storms of life try to sweep you away. We live in a world that constantly offers escape routes, easy outs, shortcuts, promises of quick relief. But none of those lead to true freedom. They only leave you circling the same struggles, the same doubts, the same disappointments. Real breakthrough, real healing, real freedom comes from staying the course. It comes from choosing to lock in, to dig deep, and to keep moving forward when everything in you wants to turn back. The path through confusion and fear is not a detour around it. It's a commitment to walk straight through it, trusting that you will come out stronger on the other side. Commitment demands something of you. It requires focus, it requires endurance, it requires sacrifice. But what it gives in return is worth far more than what it costs. Commitment gives clarity in confusion. When you commit to a purpose, your mind stops spinning in every direction. You are no longer trying to hold on to a dozen different possibilities. You choose one, you give it your all, and in that commitment, clarity rises. Confusion loses its grip when your heart is settled and your path is set. You no longer waste time second-guessing or questioning what you're doing. Commitment sharpens your focus like a lens coming into alignment. You see the way forward because you've made the decision to move in one direction with everything you've got. Pain can be overwhelming when you're standing still, staring at it, trying to figure out a way to avoid it. But when you commit to moving through it, something changes. Pain becomes part of the process, not the end of the story. Commitment gives you the strength to endure. It helps you realize that the pain you're facing today is shaping the strength you will walk in tomorrow. You stop fearing the discomfort because you know it's temporary. You stop running from the hard things because you know they are part of the refining fire. When you are deeply committed to a purpose, you can withstand the pain because you are no longer focused on how much it hurts. You are focused on how much it's worth. Fear often paralyzes us because it whispers that we can't handle what's coming. It tells us we're not strong enough, not ready enough, not good enough. But commitment silences fear. When you make the decision to lock in, fear loses its power over you. You're no longer waiting until you feel fearless, you're moving forward in spite of fear. Commitment is the courage to act while you are still afraid. It's the resolve to keep going even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Fear thrives in hesitation, but commitment drives out hesitation. It gives you momentum, it gives you direction, and with that comes a strength you didn't even know was there. The way out of confusion, pain, and fear isn't by waiting for things to get easier. It's by deciding that you will not quit. It's by committing to see it through, no matter what it takes. Commitment is what carries you when motivation runs out. It's what keeps you going when the emotions fade and the excitement disappears. It's not built on feelings. It's built on a decision, a vow you make to yourself that you will not turn back. You will not give up. You will keep showing up, keep moving forward, keep fighting for the future you believe in. Every person who has ever broken through to a new level of strength, purpose, or freedom did so because they made a commitment and refused to let go of it. They locked in, they stopped looking for the exit and started focusing on the path forward. They embraced the truth that the only way out is through, and they chose to walk through with everything they had. You may not have control over what comes your way, but you do have control over your commitment. You can decide today that you will no longer be ruled by confusion, no longer be paralyzed by pain, no longer be held back by fear. You can choose to commit fully, unwaveringly. You can lock in your heart, your mind, and your actions on the course ahead. And as you do, you will find that the strength to endure has been waiting for you all along. The clarity to navigate the confusion will rise within you. The courage to face fear will become your constant companion. Commitment transforms you. It takes you from someone who is stuck and searching to someone who is steadfast and sure. The only way out of the places you feel trapped is to commit to the journey forward, to stop looking for a way around, and to trust that going through is the way to freedom. And when you do, you will discover that everything you were searching for on the outside was always waiting to be unlocked by the power of your commitment. The door is open. The decision is yours.